Hi there, and welcome to Learning Essentials. In this segment, we're going to be talking about the Learning Skills Continuum. We'll get a better breakdown of what that is, and hopefully in the end, you'll get a better understanding of why your child struggles. Academic and social success is dependent upon having a strong base of cognitive processing or learning skills. These skills include attention, which is the ability to stay on task even when distractions are present. I'm sure we can picture a few kids in mind who struggle in this area, right? Memory. You have a short-term memory and your long-term memory. This is the ability to store and recall small amounts of information about a current situation or information that was stored in the past. Children with these problems may need to look several times at something before copying, have problems following instructions, or need to have information repeated often. It's very important for spelling, recalling facts on tests, and comprehension. Next, we have your processing speed, which is the ability to perform cognitive tasks quickly. It's an important skill for complex tasks or tasks that have many steps. If we are dividing two numbers in our head, but processing is slow, we might forget an earlier calculation before we're done and have to start over. We took longer to do the problem than our ability to remember. Next, we have our auditory processing, language, and communication. Auditory processing is the ability to perceive, analyze, and conceptualize things we heard. It's critical in beginning reading and spelling because it includes hearing, identifying and blending sounds, and sounding out words. Next, you have your phonemic awareness, and this is the thinking process that supports learning phonics for reading and spelling. Next, you have your visual processing, which is the ability to perceive, analyze, and think in visual images. This often includes visualization, which is the ability to create a picture in our head. Children who have problems with visual processing may reverse letters, or have difficulty following instructions, reading maps, doing word math problems, and comprehending. Logic and reasoning is next. And if we're not getting good information to work with, how do you think our logic and reasoning is going to be? Internal timing and organization. Now, people often think of organization in terms of planning and organizing time, projects, and materials, but internal organization is needed in order to sit in a chair or walk across a room without bumping into things. And lastly, we have our motor coordination and sensory integration. Now, you have some children who are struggling in feeling comfortable or in control of their body movements, and sometimes they're just not getting good information with their senses. Now, overall, if there are weaknesses or inconsistencies in one or more of these areas, they can cause difficulties with being an efficient learner. Next, let's look at the Learning Skills Continuum. Easy learning is built upon a continuum of neural developmental learning skills that start with reflexes in utero and continue developing to the highest levels of thinking. We think of that continuum in the levels listed here. Let's take a look at the bottom. We have our developmental, or what we also call our core learning skills. Learning is actually stimulated by movement. It begins in utero with movements triggered by reflexes. When babies are born, these reflexes begin to go away or become integrated as higher levels of thinking begin to take over. Integration happens through trial and error movements and gradually intentional movement. Physical movement and exploration is critical to developing visual skills and becoming internally organized. So in other words, parents, let your babies and toddlers creep, crawl, sit up, roll over. They need a lot of that floor time to integrate these reflexes. It is said that perhaps the high use of car seats, baby bouncers, baby swings, and the baby walkers have interfered with integrating these reflexes because they're not getting enough floor time to explore. Okay, moving on. We have processing skills. This is the second level in the learning skills continuum, which include memory, attention, visual processing, auditory processing, language processing, and processing speed. I kind of mentioned a little bit of that earlier. So challenges in any of these areas will cause a learner to have to work longer and harder than they should. Next, you have your executive function skills. This is like the brain's CEO. This is the part of the brain that guides our behavior and attention, that helps us plan and reason and solve problems. Students are notorious for putting long-term projects off to the last minute. But the bottom line is, it takes a number of sophisticated executive function skills to plan out and execute a project. If a student looks lazy, unmotivated, or disorganized, the real culprit may be weak executive function skills. And lastly, we have our academic skills or our higher learning skills. This is the highest level on the continuum. Success in this arena depends upon having a solid base of skills in the levels below. People of all ages learn how to compensate for their challenges, but compensating is hard and inefficient. The supporting skills must be in place in order to learn new information easily. Now, learning problems are very broad. They look different on different kids, but the thing they have in common is this: something is breaking down in their processing of information. Now, what are the consequences of not solving the real issues? Learning difficulties and struggles in school and our social situations are most often the result of weak or inconsistent cognitive processing skills. These underlying skills cause interference to learning. Unfortunately, they do not typically improve with time or traditional tutoring. As a result, students become more frustrated and anxious about their learning challenges. They may become angry or withdrawn. They may appear unmotivated or lazy. They may make poor decisions, feel like a failure, and quit believing in themselves. Now, what parent wants that for their child? It doesn't have to be this way. These skills can be changed, but in order to better the learning problem or solve it, the underlying skills must be developed. With specialized training, the brain can learn to think and process information in more effective ways. Students don't have to go through life crippled by their learning challenges. Current brain research shows that the brain can be retrained to think in new ways. Studies show that by using proper training methods, one can target, modify, and develop the brain to improve deficiencies. And the fastest and most efficient way to do this is through cognitive training exercises that specifically and directly target a deficient skill. Now, what's the next step? The next step is to call for an assessment. We have to know where your child falls in the learning skills continuum in order to best help them. We need to identify what the weak underlying skills are in order to develop a plan. Now, if you enjoyed this info and you found this helpful, please comment below. If you want to stay updated with the latest information, please subscribe to our newsletter. I look forward to helping you in this journey and helping your child be a more successful learner.